Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Everything Spice. My name is Tanya. Well, today I've decided to figure out, we just had St. Patty's Day, right? So what do you do with the leftovers? I have a suggest, okay? It's something that my mother used to do every single time we had St. Patty's Day. She would make a meal afterwards. She would make it's a fast thing. So it's not gonna be a big, long, dragged out, you're saying thank you God, show today. It's gonna be quick because this recipe is very simple. It's corned beef hash. My mom would make it from the corned beef that she would make. I made my crock pot version, which since everybody made it, I wasn't gonna show it. But I have it here in my bags. I got here in bowls. I got all the stuff that I need. So gather all of your leftovers from St. Patty's Day and join me in the kitchen. I'm gonna put my apron on and we are gonna get cooking today on Everything Spice. Join me on the other side. All right, I'm back. All right, so what you do is you gather up all your ingredients. Now what I have here is some margarine and some oil. So we're gonna do margarine and oil because we're not using a traditional sauce. This is all my mother used. She used butter and oil. And so I'm gonna use butter and oil as an ode to mama. Ma, this is yours. People wondering who is my mother. My mother is sitting on my mantle in a beautiful vase. That's where my mama is. So I still talk to her. She's still here. Okay, so we got the oil going. And the butter. You can use butter. I call it butter, but obviously it's margarine. And I'm going to use this because this is the only sauce for this, and it has to cook all of my onions. Ingredients being the corned beef, the cabbage, the carrots, and the potatoes. Right? There we go. So oil and margarine, and that's it. And I'm going to use the whole stick. Why not? My mother would use the whole stick of butter. Yeah. But I'm using margarine. It's got more of a water content to it. And if you hear this yelling in the background, they're playing Bad Piggy. All right, so let's see. We got this going. Now what I'm gonna do is cut up my onions. Yeah, that's gonna work. All right, I'm gonna cut up my onions right now. I don't think this onion is very good, or this one. What? Bad onions, what is going on around here? Yeah, these are not good. All right, I'll just stick with the yellow onions. All right, forget those onions. I'm gonna go on to yellow onions and try that, see if that works. Whatever onions you have, you don't necessarily have to do purple onions. And obviously, no, I'm not doing purple onions because they're not good. So I'm gonna do yellow onions, which is conversationally what my mother would have used. She wouldn't have used purple onions. Because purple onions, I would say to them, was more like salad onions. So they would use it in a salad. They would use it in like sweet things because purple onions are more, red onions they call it. I call them purple onions, but they're actually really, they're not purple. They're red onions. But they look purple to me, so whatever. Maybe I'm colorblind, I don't know. But I'm going to use these onions right here. And I got a lot of skins to get through. And you can use onions because I did in the corned beef, I did have onions in the crock pot with the corned beef, but hang on, I gotta get rid of this. Pot on the wall while I throw this away. I know I don't have my garbage bowl with me today. This is a fast meal and I'm moving fast, man. I'm not thinking about everything I need. Unfortunately, though, I don't have my mise en place, which is everything in its place today. I just got out of church, so I'm going to use that as the excuse, okay? All right, so I'm cutting this up. And you can dice it, you can slice it, whatever way you want to do it. This is just a method. I'm actually dicing it. And not very uniformed either, so I know the food police are going to be on me about that, but it is what it is. So I'm going to just cut it up, put it in the pan. And I already had onions that I used, like I said, in the crock pot with the meal. But I like the idea of adding something fresh to it. It kind of brings a leftover back to life when you use fresh vegetables. That's just my thought process on it. But if you don't want to do that and you're in even a bigger hurry than I am, which I'm not really in a hurry. I I kind of like these, the idea of making quick meals on my show versus lengthy versions. I want to do both. So you have a repertoire of different dishes that you can make. Some quick, some take a little bit more time. Well-rounded is what I would think to use as a term for that. Because sometimes you need to be quick and sometimes you need to impress. And that takes a little bit of time, my friends. This is definitely a meal that you can entertain with. And if you make this filling, you could also get a pie crust and put it in that, right? A ready-made pie crust, and you can make corned beef hash pie. Just saying. Giving you ideas. There's my dice. Putting it in. My mom always did this first. That's why it has to be quick, because the longer you cook these onions, the more they're gonna break down. So, lots of butter, margarine, lots of onions gonna go in. It's the start of something good, yeah. So the potatoes are gonna go in next, and I like to do I bought these small potatoes and I steamed them. I didn't put them into the crock pot. There was no room for that. I had 2 corned beefs that I was using, and I'm just gonna cut them like this and put them in like that. No fuss, no muss, just a little cut to them. You could dice them smaller if you wanted to, like smaller, grab them out, cut them a little bit smaller because it is a hash. But these are such small potatoes. If you have bigger potatoes, you're gonna have to do a lot more chopping for the traditional ones. But I got these little baby potatoes and, you know, whatevs, putting it in. And I have yellow, red potatoes, and I have traditional white potatoes. And it isn't traditional because my mother would have never used that, but it's my version of mama's hash. Mom always used regular potatoes, and she boiled her corned beef, and I did not because I didn't have time for that. I was working, so I decided to do it the other way. Boiling it I don't know. I don't like potatoes boiled. I'm not a big boiled potato fan. And I know people are going to be horrified when they hear that, but it's just true. I just don't. Some of these potatoes I'm just throwing in like that. They don't need to be cut, every single one of them. If they're too small, I'm not cutting them. Because what happens, some of these are a little bit bigger, some of these are a little bit smaller, and they're gonna cook at the same time, and then they're gonna be mush. So if they're little small ones, I'm just gonna put it in. All right, so cut this up. I'll give you an idea. I'll do the rest when I'm off camera because I don't have to show everything here. Then I'm going to cut up my carrots. These are roasted carrots. I did not put them in. No, I didn't do it either. Because I don't really like the mushiness of it. Sometimes I like to boil my carrots, but very rare do I boil carrots. I kind of like the flavor of roasting versus the flavor of boiled. I don't know, it's just me. Some things can be boiled, other things I like to impart a little bit more flavor. So I'm dicing up my carrots, and I'll show you that. Diced carrots go in. Everything's gonna go in the pool. So it's a one-pot wonder in the sense of you don't have to have separate pans for everything. At this point, it's a hash, right? So a hash is all meshed in with each other. And that's what I like. All right, so next step, you guys are not hanging on to everything I do. Because like I said, it's gonna be a quick video. Now look at this. Look at this thing. These are my beautiful corned beef. Ugh. It just brings tears to the eyes, remembering it. So I'm gonna dice this up. And I got a lot, I got a few. Because look at this perfection. And this is like 8 hours in a crock pot on high, and it's still beautiful red. I'm not even kidding. It wasn't raw though. Don't get it twisted. I wasn't raw. It was perfect. So I'm just gonna dice it, and I'll show you what dicing is, because you don't want big chunks of corned beef in your hash. You just don't. Maybe you do, and if that's the case, do it the way you want. I'm just showing you a method. Cooking is a method, baking is a science. So you can interpret it any way you want. You can even grind this if you had a grinder, food processor. This is my grind, here's my grind. Throwing it all in. So what I'm gonna do is throw all this in. This hand's clean. And I'm gonna come back on the other side and I'm going to show you what this beautiful corned beef hash looks like before it's actually done. I want to throw it all in and then give you an idea about the cooking. Join me on the other side. So what I'm trying to do is get a crisp. Come to the pot, see? I'm going to crisp it up just a bit because it is a hash. So the potatoes are in, this is the corned beef, the carrots, some fresh onions. See, the fresh onions are there right here. Fresh onions are still there cooking. And that's all going in. And I'm waiting to get a little bit of a crisp on here, and then I'm going to add the cabbage. Because I want the cabbage to go in last because that's a lot of water in cabbage. And I chopped up the cabbage. This is the cabbage. So there we go. So what I do here, for spices, there's a lot of spice already in it, mind you, because it comes with those seasoning packs. But I'm going to put some pepper. I'm not putting any salt because corned beef is salty. If you don't know corned beef is one of the saltier meats. So I am not going to use any salt in this. All right, so pepper, of course, pepper, the go-to in my family. Garlic powder. I'm not a crazy fan of garlic salt. I like garlic powder, it's concentrated. And I like it in this. I don't think my mom ever used it, but parsley, I would say it up in New England, baby. And not even a palmful. And that's it. And then all of the seasonings from the corned beef when I made it originally. I'm going to keep cooking this, getting a little crisp on, right? What I'm going to do after that is I'm going to cover it with my big cover for this because this is a pretty big one. I'm going to add, obviously, my cabbage. Then I'm going to cover it. And then I'm going to show you on the other side what corned beef hash is, what it was for my family, what it can do for your family. I can remember, I'm thinking about this meal right now. And as I'm stirring it, I can see I'm in my kitchen, in my home, you know, my childhood home. And I can see my mother making this. And then years later, of course, she had an apartment and she's making it for my dad. They're both gone now. Only my mother sits on my mantle. My pops is in somebody else's house. But for this, I can remember her making this. And this is such a memory to me of Mom. And I loved this. And I wasn't a big, at the time, you know, look at my nails, see? I just painted my nails. You like them, the green. For spring, today's the first day of spring. Did I mention that to you? Happy spring, everybody. It's finally here. 2 days away from my birthday on Wednesday. Thank you, thank you. Yes, actually 3 days away, right? It's Wednesday. Thank you. I'm so happy. Yes, happy birthday. I know. I can't believe it. Anyways, I know it's an annual thing, right? So I am a spring baby. But anyway, this is a meal that just is such a memory to me of my childhood and my mother making this meal every single year. She'd never let these leftovers go by like corned beef meals. She never made corned beef without making leftovers. So this leftover never left our house. That pun was intended. So now I'm making it. And I feel like, and call me crazy, which some of you have already in the past called me crazy, which is fine. It's cool. I can be. But what I think of when I look at food in so many different ways is the history of it and the memory of it. Because so many people have made probably this meal, right? And you could look on YouTube and probably have 16 different ways of making this one thing, right? This hash. They have canned, you know, you have canned corned beef and hash. You can put it together for breakfast and stuff. But I love it this way because my mother always made it like this. She did not like the canned corned beef and hash. But you can make this meal, add the cabbage, cook it down, put it in a pie crust as I mentioned. And then you'd have corned beef hash pie, which I have made. But there's something about the memory of food. And I'm sure you feel the same way. Your grandmother, your mother, your family members made certain dishes, and every time you make it, do you ever really think about it? You think about these meals and you're like, oh, it's almost like being back there in that kitchen, being there with my vovo or my yaya or my, you know, my nanny or whatever, and it's like you're making these meals. And that's what the history of food is, the tradition of food is. So that's kind of like why I like making all different types of meals, not just because I had them in my house. There's a lot of those recipes that I've never had in my house. But I think about the history of the people that made those meals, made those breads. And it just, I feel a certain way about it, you know? I really love the history and the tradition of food. There's history of American history, there's European history. There's something about the history of food and the memories of it and the traditions of it. It just hits me in the heartstrings, hits me in the heart, so to speak. So I like to share it with you, just in case maybe you have this memory, or maybe it's a lost recipe in your family, and now all of a sudden I'm making it on my show, and you're like, I remember my nanny making that. And we lost the recipe because she passed away. And now this is the recipe. So if that's something that resonates with you, I'm glad. I'm glad, because I love making all different types of food. So maybe one day, maybe not today, but one day I'm going to hit your recipe and you're going to be glad that I did. So, and I'm glad that I did as well. So join me on the other side as I add all of my ingredients together and the final reveal of Mama's corned beef hash. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, the last thing that I forgot to add is mustard. So that's what I'm going to do. And you can use any brand. And I don't use a whole lot. Just a little bit to give it that oomph. You could use dry mustard as well. I'm going to stir all this in. And this is it, baby. It's go time. This is what it looks like in the pan. Look at it. Look how perfection. Now this is my mom's corned beef hash. All right, let me shut this off. And I'm making you a plate. You know I always make you a plate. So, let's make you a plate, my friends. This is it. This is the meal. And you could serve it with bread, of course. You could serve it for a party if you wanted to. Entertainment-wise, it's fantastic. And it's a great way to use leftovers. So, I got you a plate. I know, I do overfill plates. That's how I tend to do it. I just love when people eat my food, though. It just makes me so happy. All right, I'm going to put a little bit of parsley on here for color, because I kind of like it like that. And here is your plate. My mother's corned beef hash. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And if you did, please like and subscribe. I'd love to have you. Thank you so much for joining me each and every week. I so appreciate you. Have a wonderful Sunday, everyone. Be safe.